Well, as Sam has already said, I am the Tea Party lady, and I dress like this a lot of times. I don't actually even own a pair of blue jeans or a sweatshirt or sneakers. Did you know people could live without those? I can. As he said, we've got all kinds of different stories, and mine are not about fish or mules, you might imagine. I grew up in Georgia, and I want to tell you my first story, but you're going to have to sing with me. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake, baked a cake, baked a cake. If I knew you were coming, I'd have baked a cake. How to do, how to do, how to do. Now that song came out in the 1950s, and that's what a lot of my stories are taking place in the 1950s. That song, I do not know that my sister and I knew that when we were children, but it was October the 10th, and it was our daddy's birthday. And we wanted to give him something so special. We didn't have any money, and even if we had, Mama couldn't drive, and she couldn't take us in town to buy anything. So we decided we would bake a cake for Daddy. Now, it makes no difference the fact that I was only 8 years old, and my sister was about 10, but Mother seemed to feel very confident about us baking a cake, and she went out and messed around in her flower garden and left us to our own resources. Imagine that. Well, we thought, okay, let's get out our boys and girls cookbook. We opened up the first page and saw, okay, there it is, cakes. Opened it up and saw best 2-egg cake. That's what we'll make, Daddy. So you help me. The ingredients, it said, okay, that's what the ingredients are. But first of all, we've got to light the oven, 350. My sister did that. I let her take care of the oven because I was a little fraidy-cat about that. And next it said we will need 2 metal pans, and then you got to put that greasy Crisco stuff on it to make it so the cake doesn't stick. So we got that all in the bottom of the pans. And then we started getting out, okay, you help me. We need flour. What do we need? Sugar. We need some butter. Eggs, 2 eggs, yeah, and some milk. Okay, we start measuring it all out and putting it in this big old bowl. And so we got the flour, we got the sugar, we got the, we did the eggs, and there's only a little bit of shell. Do you suppose Daddy will notice it? Okay, my sister got a spoon and got the little piece out. Okay, next we got, let's see, put the milk in and beat it around. Now, Mama might have had a mixer, but we were not allowed to use it. That means we had to use a big spoon. And you remember when they used to say in the recipe books, beat it 50 times? Okay, I did 25, and then my sister took over 25 more times. Boy, we were getting tired of this business. But anyway, we got it, poured it into the 2 pans. Now, trying to get the same amount in 2 pans is a little tricky when you're only 8. But we did it. And my sister put them in the oven. Now, our oven did not have a window in the door. And we kept getting real anxious about whether it was getting done or not. So we might have peeked too many times, but we kept checking on it. And then while we were waiting for it to get done, we were going to make him frosting. Now, we didn't know if Daddy liked chocolate frosting, but we did. So we were going to make chocolate frosting for that cake. So we got out, okay, powdered sugar. What else you think? Cocoa, a little bit of butter, and a little bit of milk. And we were beating it all up and going, this is pretty good. We kept tasting it and tasting it. Finally, my sister got one of those little metal things that you can test a cake with because she thought it was about time, or the buzzer went off. It was about time for that cake to be done. She put it in there, and finally, nothing came out on the little metal stick. It must have meant our cake was done. She took the pans out. I didn't touch it. Ooh, I'm not touching anything with that stove. She took the pans and put them over on the cooling rack. And in a little bit, finally, the cake was cool enough to put the frosting on. Now, we probably both noticed our cake wasn't real tall, but neither of us said anything to the other about it. So we got the frosting and put it on the first layer, on the sides, and on the top. Then put the other piece of cake on top, put the frosting on it, and we were so pleased with ourselves. We put candles on it, and then we went and put it in the laundry room, which is right next to where we were eating in the dining room that night for dinner. Oh, it was time for dinner when Daddy came home and we sat down to have our meal. Becky and I didn't eat much of anything, partly because we were so excited, and partly because we've been eating cake frosting and cake batter all afternoon. So anyway, after the meal was finally done, we sneak into the laundry room, and here we come. Sing with me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Daddy. Happy birthday to you. He was so tickled. He blew out, I don't remember how many candles, maybe 20 we put on it. Anyway, he blew them out. Then he reaches down and picks up his knife right beside his plate, and he starts to cut the cake. He didn't seem to be having any luck. Mama, would you hand me the butcher knife, please? Mama reaches into the drawer and gets out the butcher knife. He wasn't having any luck with the butcher knife. Well, Bill, we got the bread knife. You want to try it? It's got those little serrated teeth on the edge. Hand it to my mama. She hands him the knife, and he starts trying to cut again. Oh, my goodness. Daddy could not cut our cake. Mama was not much of a cook, but even she could figure out, well, girls, I suspect perhaps you left the baking powder out. And we realized we put all those big things in, but there was just that little bitty bit of the baking powder that could have made so much difference in our cake. We were very sad that night, and Mama decided to throw the cake out the back door outside the kitchen. Well, we learned that night our Daddy would love us still, even when we made a mistake. And we needed to follow all the directions on the recipe. And the next morning, we learned when we looked outside, birds would not even eat our cake. They'll eat worms, but they would not eat our cake. But you know what? My sister grew up to be an excellent baker, and I became very good friends with Betty Crocker. Thank you very much. Okay. My next story takes place in Georgia again. When I was little, we grew up in a big, old, plain White House. Not a big fancy one with white columns like Gone with the Wind. No, just a plain old white house. It belonged to my grandmother Barron. That's Daddy's mama. She rented out the first floor to our family, and then she rented out the upstairs to another family. Now, Grandmother Barron did not live with us, which was good because my mother would not have survived. You know about mother-in-laws and how they can be, right? Okay, this house was very cold in the wintertime. My sister and I ended up with colds every winter, colds and coughs. Now, back when I was growing up in the 50s, people did not run to the doctor every time you turn around. To begin with, my family didn't have the money for a doctor that often. It had to be pretty sick before we used the doctor. My mother did what most mamas did back then. They talked to the neighbors over the back fence and said, "What do you use for Johnny's cold last month?" And maybe she would have a suggestion. Mama had heard about this stuff. You could pour the medicine into a container of water and put it on the stove, turn up the heat, and then breathe the fumes, and it would help loosen up the cough. Mama decided to try this. She was not about to use her wonderful Revere copper-bottom pans, so she used a sweet potato can left from the last Thanksgiving. She filled it up with water, and then she poured that medicine stuff in it, put it on the stove, turned up the heat, and she said, "Okay, girls, in a little bit you better be ready." So in a few minutes she said, "Okay, it's ready now." There we were in our little pajamas and our nightgowns and our bathrobes. And she said, "Okay, lean over now, and everybody's got to breathe, okay? Breathe with me. Breathe in. Breathe out. One more time. Breathe in. Breathe out." Well, it did begin to loosen up our coughs a little bit. The next trick Mama had was a chest rag. Everybody ever heard of a chest rag before? Mama took a piece of an old blanket and cut out a square about this big. And then she put that stinky Vicks Vapor Rub on it. Everybody remember Vicks Vapor Rub? Raise your hand if you do. All right. I still use it. I have to confess I have some in my night bag, and I'm going to be spending the night at Sam and Linda's house. I still got some with me. You never know when you might need it. Okay. She put this Vicks Vapor Rub on the little rag, and then she used a huge safety pin and pinned it right over your chest. And that way you could smell that good stinky stuff all night long. So she put us into bed that night, and she said, "Night-night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite." Everybody know that one? And as she left the room, she offered up a prayer, and she said, "Oh, Lord, please let the girls sleep tonight so the whole family can get some sleep." And I'm happy to report we did that night. Now let's fast forward to today, maybe last year. I had a bad cold with a cough, and a friend said to me, "Miss Alice, what you need for that cough is not something from the drugstore. You know, we got drugstores on every corner today, and that's what people use rather than home remedies. It's so easy to go to the drugstore and pick up something. You got Theraflu, NyQuil, Dayquil, Robitussin, all this stuff." So my friend said, "What you need is not from the drugstore. It's from the ABC store, and it's called Rock and Rye." Well, now, I have to tell you, I almost fainted. I grew up in a Southern Baptist teetotaling house, and the thought of going to the ABC store was pretty horrifying to me. But you know what? You know what the clincher was? When I found out that NyQuil and Rock and Rye had the same amount of alcohol in them. 25% alcohol is in NyQuil. You think of that next time you go to Walgreens, okay? So I decided 3 nights of no sleep, I am going to the ABC store. God may strike me dead, but I'm going to the ABC store. So I waited until it was dark, and I pulled on my longest hat that I could pull down over my ears. I put on my sunglasses, and I put on my longest coat. I drove to near the ABC store, but I did not park in front of it. I'll have to explain to you all. I have my business name is on 3 sides of my vehicle, and I just as soon not see my name in front of the ABC store. So I parked about a half a block away and went into the ABC store, opened up the door, and oh my gosh, look at all these bottles. And the woman saw I looked a little bit distressed, and she said, "Ma'am, can I help you?" And I said, "Oh, yes, ma'am. I need something that's called rock and rye. It's just for medicinal purposes only." And she rolled her eyes because I suspect she had heard that before. She said, "Ma'am, do you want the big bottle or the little bottle?" And I said, "Oh, give me the big bottle. I'll take the big bottle." She very sweetly took my money and she put the rock and rye in a plain brown wrapper. And I stuck it under my coat, went to the door, looked this way, looked that way. The coast was clear, and I ran straight to my car. I drove home, went inside, pulled on my nightgown, got that bottle of rock and rye, unscrewed the lid, and took one whiff. Boy, that stuff was strong. But like a little kid, I grabbed my nose and I took a big swig, glug, glug of that stuff. And do you know what? I now know why they call it rock and rye. I slept like a rock all night long. And I'll tell you, so now if you get a cough, maybe I'll go to the ABC store for you and get you some rock and rye for it. Okay. One of my other stories is called "In the Morning is Sunday." Now, you gathered a little bit from my previous story that I grew up in a Southern Baptist environment. So, about 4 o'clock every Saturday afternoon, my mother would show up around the house looking for me and my sister. I would probably be in the sewing room making a dress to wear to Sunday school the next day. My sister would be in the kitchen making brownies for her to feed her boyfriend that night when she had a date. Mama would say, "In the morning is Sunday, girls." I got to where I hated hearing that. Now let me explain you what she meant, okay? In the morning is Sunday. She means you're going to figure out what it is you're going to wear to church tomorrow. You're going to check it for spots or tears or anything like that, see if you can still wear it. You're going to check and be sure your shoes are polished. You're going to read your Sunday school lesson. You're going to get out your church envelope and put your tithe that you saved up this week. You're going to put all that in there. If your hair needs shampooing, you're going to get that hair washed and get it rolled on those curlers. And in the morning, we're going to go to church with no ruckus, and you are not going to make me lose my religion before I get there. So this is what we did as we got ready Saturday afternoon. Well, now, you may or may not remember this, but ladies used to wear a whole lot more clothes than they do now. They did not wear jeans and T-shirts to church. No way, Jose. We always wore a dress or a suit. We wore high heels. We wore lots of underwear. And I'm fixing to explain to you about that, okay? All right, we have on some underwear on the bottom and some on the top. We're not going to get real specific on that. But we were big girls. We did not wear socks anymore to church. We wore stockings. This is before pantyhose were invented. Bless his heart. Whoever invented those, they're such a sweet man. I love him. Anyway, you wore stockings. But you had to have something to hold the stockings up. There was something called a garter belt. Now, if you don't know what that is, let me explain it to you, okay? It's kind of like a bunch of straps. There's one going around this way, and then there's one going this way, one this way, and there's two going, oops, where's that microphone going? Going in the back. Can you still hear me? Okay. Oh, it's like it's falling. Okay. But my trouble is, when I tried to wear the garter belt, it seemed like I was going this way and the garter belt was going that way. Maybe like the mule thing was saying, that one was geeing and one was hawing. Is that what you say? Okay, all right. I didn't do too well with the garter belt. I just couldn't seem to do it. I could not do it. So even though my sister and I were both very tiny when we were young, old age happens and you're just not tiny anymore. That's just the way it is. That's life. Okay, we wore a girdle to hold up our stockings. Now, people do not know what a girdle is very much today, and there's sometimes I would like to buy one for some people I see when I see what is jiggling around. But anyway, let me explain to you how you have to put on a girdle. Okay, first of all, you got to step in the thing, and then you pull, and you pull, and you pull, and you pull, and then you get it up to about right here, and that's when the jumping starts. And you have to move about 3 or 4 more times to get the dumb thing up. Then you got to put on the stockings. And then you got to hook it to those little doohickeys here and doohickey in the back and one on either side. Now, if you're not careful and your fingernails are snaggy, you're going to make a runner happen in that stocking. That's when you got to get nail polish out to make that stop. Now, you men don't know anything about what I'm even talking about. It was a lot of trouble. Anyway, then we put on a slip. Now, do you know at my tea parties, I've been doing tea parties for 22 years. Everybody comes, and girls and ladies come and play dress up. I discovered that kids today do not know what a slip is. I nearly fainted when one said, "Miss Alice, what's a slip?" It's a thing that you wear so you don't see through your outfit down to your underwear. People don't know what they are today. I still wear them myself. Okay, I'm not talking a half slip from here down. I'm talking a whole slip that's got straps and stuff up here at the top to cover you up. Okay, so you got to put it on after you get the curlers off, but before you get your hairdo just right. And then you put your dress on. So now we've got on all that underwear, we got the dress. Next, what we got to get? Our high heels. Next, we got to get our hat, something that matches, a little purse, and a hanky in case you start to have a runny nose in church. Put your offering in there, and then you got to get gloves. I wore these just special for you tonight so you could remember what real gloves look like. Okay, so by the time we all got all that stuff on, Daddy would say, "Okay, gals, you all ready? It's almost time for Sunday school. Come get in the car." And believe it or not, Mama had not lost her religion before we got to First Baptist Church down the street. Okay. All right, let me tell you one more story, and then I'm going to be finished. This is a modern-day story. Everybody in this room, I bet, knows what the Biltmore House is, right? Shake your head. Everybody knows the Biltmore House in Nashville. We're very blessed to have some so unique, special place in North Carolina. Well, you can pay money and go in and see it. How many of you ever heard of the TV series called Downton Abbey? Oh, good. I love you all. We're a fan club all of our own, aren't we? Anyway, I've watched the entire thing, all 6 years of it, 4 times. Who can beat me? Anybody? No. Oh, you can't? Okay, meet me afterwards, all right? We'll compare notes. Okay. I just love that. Anyway, they were going to have a display of clothes from the Downton Abbey show. My friend said, "You want to go?" I said, "Yes." But the tickets cost us like $60. We knew we would not have money for a fancy restaurant for lunch. So I said, let's pool our resources and we'll just make ourselves a picnic. We went into the Biltmore House and enjoyed it thoroughly, but we always dress up. She dresses up, I dress up. Not the same, but we both have our own style. Every room we went in, people wanted to take our pictures. And I got to where I kind of liked it. I said, "Oh, sure, if you want to take my picture, that'll be fine." After we got done with seeing the house, I asked the lady who gave us the tour, could we have a picnic on the grounds? Would that be all right? We don't want to get arrested or anything. She said, oh, that'll be fine. Just wherever you would like will be fine. So we chose to be by the garden shop. Now, my friend did not know I was going all out, but I kind of like to overdo things. You probably imagine that. I have a little round table like this that folds up, just enough for two, like a little ice cream table, and little gold Chiavari chairs, and a long tablecloth. I got out my china teapot, teacups. She got out her food. I got out my food, and we set up right next to the garden shop. We no sooner got started eating than cars would drive by, roll down the window, and say, oh, could we take your picture? You look so cute. Oh, yes, you can take our picture. That'll be fine. That'll be fine. We had probably 30 people stop and want to take our picture. Some thought that Biltmore was paying us to do that. I thought that they should go and make that suggestion to Biltmore House. Then we could afford to eat someplace different next time. But people would come and they would start showing us pictures of their cat, pictures of the cat dressed up like a doll, pictures of their dad, all kinds of stuff. We could have had a counseling session going on right there for people. But you know, in a little while it was over, and we had more fun than if we had had money to go to a fancy restaurant. What turned out to seem like a little bit of a problem turned into the most fun trip I ever had to the Biltmore House. Thank you very much.